In a world filled with conflict, in a universe comprised of differences, there's one thing that absolutely everything shares in common. We all exist. Including two guys named Jack and Michael, who like to chat about that very thing over a good cup of coffee. Let's pay them a visit, shall we?
Existence Brewing.
Swap meet, huh? I've never quite understood swap meets.
Swap meet? It's coming. You know, I really don't think I'm comfortable going to any place, in public at least, and swapping meat with other people.
It just doesn't seem sanitary, does it?
No, there's just something about swapping my meat that's going to be done in private, not out with a whole bunch of vendors.
Have you ever been to a swap meet? I saw that there's going to be one here this weekend, and I was kind of like, I've never been to one.
You know what's horrible is when you confuse a swap meet with a flea market and you go home with pubic lice. That's what's terrible. That's what you got to watch out for right there. So.
Oh man! Did you happen to catch?
We do have a swap meet coming to our town.
Yeah, we do. I know. So, like, what is the premise of those? I know you're a local media celebrity, and so you probably know a thing or two about what this event is, or you've read it at some point in your week. So, what do you do?
Well, this year I didn't do the story on it. My colleague did. I did last year's inaugural swap meet, and it's being called the States Swap Meet, even though it's like not officially being pushed by any state swap meet committee or organization. I don't know if there is such a thing. Anyway, it's a bunch of shit. You know, people get together and sell. The thing about swap meets, and I think it's especially the pictures that I've seen of this swap meet and the stories that have been swapped about it since it happened last year, was that it's just a little too much of a hodgepodgery. It's kind of like we have something here called the Barter Fair. It happens up north, and it used to be and still is a renowned destination for those who are consistently experiencing and or seeking to have a psilocybin mushroom trip, or just so like pot smoked out of their mind that they look like they have an easy bake oven around their head. You know, it's a new Cenobite from Hellraiser, you know, the easy bake Cenobite. My ex-wife had talked about going up there for years, and we were married we were together 22 years. We were married 13.
Did she like
never
shrooms?
Went up there. No, she wasn't that. She was a little bohemian, and this place is definitely known for having a bohemian vibe. You know, all the different wares, the blankets and the clothing and the boots that have somebody literally sheared like a lumox, and they made the boots out of it, or the boots are a Lorax boots or kinkajou. Like, this is real kinkajou, but we only skinned the animal when it was asleep because it's humane, and
it was humanely skinned, right?
Girlfriend wanted to go, and we went, and there's two installments. There's a spring fair and a fall fair. The fall fair is apparently supposed to be better, but the spring fair gave me a preview of at least the kind of whatever they call those M95 gas masks that I'm going to have to wear up there unless I want to get a secondhand high, because the whole place is it's a bomb of drugs. And of course, marijuana is legal in the state we live in. Psilocybin is not. And there were more mushrooms up there than a Smurf Gotham probably could house. But
oh, I love it. I cannot picture you in that kind of an environment.
No, and I dressed for the occasion, too, because there's this and of course, you know me, just Mr. not only like unique, like Aquarius. I'm a Cancer sun, but I have these two Aquarian planets that just dominate my personality.
Jack's a fashionista.
Yeah, so I have to, my clothes are very eccentric. And what I decided to wear up there, I skipped the white jeans, which I thought was a little too much because, like if you went to an event like a rodeo, rodeo people probably be fine with white jeans, but like if you wore the wrong thing at a rodeo, one guy could beat the shit out of you. So you just think, no, that's okay.
Yeah.
There, like at the barter fair, it's like, it would take 7 or 8 guys probably that are completely baked on pot and tripping on psilocybin mushrooms to beat the shit out of me. But I'm still not going to risk it because there's at least that many guys there that would highly object to white jeans being on the premises worn by anybody. So I toned it down with just some, light denim. But I wore this long sleeve shirt that I just gotten. Pink, as you wouldn't believe. I love the color. It's just bubblegum pink. And it's got a print on the front of something called Sam the Sandown Clown. And Sam is a very, very obscure, little-known alien encounter that some kids had in the 1960s in the UK with this very tall thing that was dressed up like a clown and was talking through like a Mr. Microphone loudspeaker system. It's a weird friggin' thing. I don't think kids could make shit like that up. I think somebody was either pulling their leg or there's a real life it out there. But it said like one of my favorite things that's ever been said by anything ever, because they reportedly were talking to it and it told them, or it kept repeating to them, I am all colors. And that is so my mantra, like in every single way. I am all colors, because my spirit animal is a hummingbird. And so I wore this bubblegum pink long sleeve shirt with Sam, the Sandown Clown, a graphic of it. I found it on Etsy. God love the guy who made it. It was awesome. And, there were several remarks about, like, from the vendors. You came dressed for the occasion, man. It's like, yeah, the cloud of smoke taking me down because I've never done drugs in my life. Never smoked pot in my life. I know everybody, it's hard now, Jack. That's true. Most marijuana I've ever smoked in my life, Downwind Supertramp concert. Like, that's true. It's the truth. But anyway, it's all secondhand.
Well, don't get arrested.
Never been arrested either. I've always thought if I was going to be arrested, though, it would be like Martin Sheen. You know how many times Martin Sheen's been arrested for protesting for, like, monkeys who are experiencing stereotaxic atrocities in some like compound? Oh, God, he's been arrested like 24 times for that shit. He's awesome. It's like, Marty, baby, what happened to your son? Like, he's a fucking wacko. It's tiger's blood. Meanwhile, you're chaining yourself to a redwood, and they're hauling you off to, Compton, for God's sake.
Well, you would get arrested at barter fair after smoking marijuana for the first time.
No, I'm not going to smoke marijuana for the first time because I'm on a roll, see?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, look at the roll that I'm on.
Why break your record, right?
What's the earliest age a kid could probably smoke pot? 11? Let's just say 11. Okay, yeah. I'm going 40 plus years without smoking marijuana willfully. I can't do it now. There's no way. It's like going to Disneyland. That's going to be on my epitaph. My tombstone's going to say, here lies Jack Hansen. Never went to fucking Disneyland.
Or
I'm
smoked
so proud
pot.
of that. No, that'd be like in really fine print at the bottom because they charge for that shit. So.
Okay, I'll make sure that happens. ... Never smoked pot.
Yeah, you're in charge of my epitaph.
Okay. So, did you watch the presidential debate?
Oh, you know me so well. So, no, this came up actually. My coworker asked me the very same question, and the night that it occurred, I actually asked my girlfriend, so what do you think is a bigger waste of time? Watching the presidential debate tonight or an NFL football game this weekend? We couldn't come up with a correct answer. But I know you checked it out, right?
Oh, yeah. And in case you missed it, this is what it sounded like.
I'm here with Kamala. Koalala.
It's just Kamala.
Koalala. Like an animal from the zoo. She's so nasty. Look at her.
Okay. You know what? You're one to talk. All right? We're going to be debating tonight.
She's so small, little Kamala. She'll never beat me because she's a tiny little... tiny person, by the way.
I'm not small. I'm a full-size human being, okay?
And we're debating on a lot of issues, a lot. And quite frankly, I think that healthcare is very good.
Yeah, right.
Everybody should have... Everybody...
I'm speaking. Okay.
Excuse me. Everybody should have health. Everybody.
I agree.
And some people, the Democratic Party, they don't want health. They want to kill you. They want to put heroin in your head and put you in in a tent. REI.
Oh, that's what it sounded like.
It's one of the best I've heard. He kind of sounds like Frank Caliendo doing it, but I don't know if Caliendo does a Trump. Because that guy's been around for a long time. Media popularity, I guess, for one reason or another. He was on TV and rich and owned the New Jersey Generals of the USFL that he helped to take down because they won a dollar judgment in court for collusion. But nobody ever really tried to do an impression of this guy. It wouldn't seem until he ran for president. And then when he ran for president, it suddenly came out that no one can really do a good Trump. And that had everybody freaked out and thinking that, it was some kind of biblical message that the end was near or something, because every president, people have been able to sort of do them, but Trump is hard. And it's funny because I think now that he's been in the popular eye in that arena for as long as he has, both as president for 4 years and then now running again, it seems like there's more people doing a good Trump. Yeah, no, that's good. And then I love how stressed out Kamala kind of sounds.
Yes.
The impersonator of that kind of got that sort of constant histrionic thing that she tends to embody. So.
Well, I'm a huge believer in give credit where credit's due. Austin Nasso is his name, and he has 33,000 subscribers on YouTube, 805 videos. And he has videos about other things besides Donald Trump, but I think he's a stand-up comedian. But Austin Nasso is his name. So, yeah, go check him out, kids.
Kudos to Austin. He's doing a hell of a job. Most you'll ever hear us talk about politics, by the way.
It is. We'll only bring it up when the moment is fitting, too. But
and you had to do that because you probably really did watch the debate, too, didn't you?
I actually did, and I didn't have much to report on, but I do think that that's a really good synopsis of what the debate sounded like. Obviously amped up, but by the way, I don't want you to. I got to move this candle. I don't want you to get wax on your wonderful jacket you have there.
Oh, thank you. I think this is suede, by the way. So, what the hell is this, too, by the way?
Well, this candle is a Darth Vader ensconced candle in memory.
Let me see it from the back. Let me see the front.
Yeah, there it is in all its glory. It's burning bright.
Dark candle.
It's burning bright, of course.
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough.
He told me you made a candle.
He told me you killed him.
No. I am your father.
I thought you were just practicing Santeria or something here, this black candle on the table.
No. It's not true. That's impossible.
Search your feelings, you know.
So torn. That was such a dramatic moment.
True story about that moment, apparently. This is the story anyway. George Lucas was so concerned, with that story leaking about the movie plot that he didn't tell any of the producers or any of the actors until they actually shot the scene. Not even James Earl Jones would later record the voice, but not even David Prowse, who portrayed Darth Vader in the suit, and Mark Hamill, who's Luke Skywalker. Apparently, they didn't even know until they started shooting that scene. Those lines were deleted. Here's something that only true nerds will know, and I don't mean now nerds, because nerds now are just they're a dime a dozen. I mean real nerds that were really into it back in the 80s, like me when I was a kid. So the line of action figures for Return of the Jedi, when they released them in stages. So they had certain ones that would come out first, and then a second batch, and then a third batch, and so on and so forth. So the first couple batches, they came out prior to the movie's release in the spring of 1983. And there were 2 Ewok characters. When you turn the back, you ever seen a Star Wars figure original packaging?
From the OG.
So when you turn it, so when you turn it over, the J card as they call it over, there's all of the other ones that you can get, hey parents, tell your kids, lined up. And at that time there were over 70 or something, because you had 2 movies and then the new ones, so they showed them all. but there were two that were airbrushed out with black. Couldn't see them at all. They were Ewoks. And so for the marketing purposes, Lucas literally had Kenner airbrush out those Ewoks so that you couldn't even see them before the movie came out. So the general population, now shit gets leaked so fast off of the set, nobody
you'd never be able to pull it off.
But back then, so the Ewoks were a big secret until the movie came out. They're little teddy bears. And because originally that was supposed to be the Society of Wookiees, but he claims that he felt by the time he made the third movie, Chewbacca had already been portrayed as a technologically advanced character to a point where it's not believable that this primitive group of his ancestors could be on this forest moon kind of hanging out like Jack Link's jerky and, you know, living in trees and stuff. I say bullshit. I say bullshit 100%. He made teddy bears to sell, and he sold a lot of them for that movie, but it worked, you know. So
well, and I always thought it was a shame that David Prowse, who's the 6'6" Darth Vader actor, never got
Scottish as hell.
He never got his recognition, right? I mean, he was the man behind the mask, and James Earl Jones got all the credit because of his wonderful voice.
I'm a David Prowse fan because, like, he actually had to do the acting in the suit, and you should watch the cutaways, the original, because, of course, when you're doing the scene with Darth Vader, James Earl isn't standing there doing his lines for him. David Prowse has to do the lines. David Prowse is like the most Scottish man you've ever heard in your life. He's completely inscrutable. So if you listen to some of the original cutaways of him working with Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill and some of the other, I mean, there was no dialogue between he and Hamill in the original, I guess, the first one, but his dialogue with Alec Guinness, you can see them just quizzically going, oh my God, is this the voice they're going to use in the film? Because he's like, it's not real business. You like
Fetch me my lightsaber.
The fuck are we making here?
Yes.
Is this a movie, or am I at a tavern? Am I at a pub suddenly? Are we making American Werewolf in London the back of the bar scene 6 years early? Like, it was funny. They're hilarious to watch. So,
but of course, our tribute is to James Earl Jones, who was the voice of Darth Vader. 93 years old when he passed, and what a wonderful life that he had. You know, I actually I was able to watch a few of the kind of in memory of James Earl Jones that the news always does, and I didn't realize that he was born in Mississippi in 1931, and he actually had a stutter, and he's had a stutter since childhood, and he overcame that, and he was able to obviously not have that become a huge factor in his acting career, but
no impediment there.
Yeah, and he made a remark that, you know, it never goes away. You have an ability to just kind of work with it in your life,
physically talk around it. Yeah,
physically talk around it. And when they hired him as the voice for Darth Vader, it was really what he kind of saw as a moment in his career, because he hadn't really been in a lot of successful movies before that. And here George Lucas is hiring this stuttering boy from Mississippi to be Darth Vader, of all things.
To portray the greatest
and I just
villain
thought it was
overlord in sci-fi history.
It was a great, I think a great
cool.
testament to, overcoming challenges in your life. And, he also kind of, He reminded me of somebody who, anymore in this day and age, I kind of feel like actors are created in a factory somewhere. Like you're born and then you're stamped, okay, this guy's going to be an actor, and then you show up on a stage somewhere. But like in his day, in James Earl Jones's day, he was a veteran of the Korean War. He served in the U.S. Army. He pursued an acting career kind of later in life. I guess he was in his 20s when he did that. But it just kind of, to me, it kind of spoke as, it was back in a day when, he could have been a baseball player and then And then all of a sudden he decided to become an actor, kind of like John Wayne. And so it just kind of is a testament to sometimes life takes twists and turns, and you never quite know what it's going to lead to.
Life is very interesting that way. I always thought he'd have been great on the Golden Girls, quite honestly.
As like the neighbor or something?
No, like living there in the house. Like maybe he's married to one of them or something, but just like, he's always in the kitchen. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Maybe he was like a cross-dressing
What are you doing?
Golden
Going through
Girl?
the fridge again, Rose.
Well, one, of course, of my favorite movies that he was in is this one here.
The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again. Oh, people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
Anyway, Field of Dreams, wonderful movie. And, I didn't see one of my favorite movies from childhood that James Earl Jones was in. And I'm going to see if you can guess it.
Alan Quatermain, the master of adventure, has teamed up with the most unlikely partner.
America's about 6,000 miles that way.
To pursue the dream of a lifetime.
It's dangerous and it's crazy.
And it's what I've got to do.
Gold. Streets of it.
They're searching for the long-lost treasure of an ancient civilization. Guarded by a mad tyrant and his ruthless warriors. The odds are against them, and that's the way they like it. Richard Chamberlain, Sharon Stone, and James Earl Jones in the adventure movie of the year, Alan Quatermain and the Lost City of Gold.
Oh, do you remember that movie?
Wow.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, vaguely, but I don't know that I could tell you a thing about it, honestly. So that's your favorite JEJ movie?
Oh, I love that movie. And this quote is what really stuck out in my mind that I wanted to feature that trailer.
Wars of Jalpura.
They swarm with nice work. For a while, I thought we'd end up in Cleveland.
Proof that only a fool questions the wisdom of Swarma.
Proof that even a blind monkey sometimes finds a banana.
So they're going through the jungle and they're being led by this man who plays a very, what would probably be in today's standards, very racially insensitive Indian character. And of course, James Earl Jones, who's a very stoic, tribal, he carries a giant axe. And
East Indian or like Native American?
No, East Indian. And
East Indian, okay.
Yeah, and so then, they're going through the jungle and of course Swama is very clearly just a hack, and he just has this act for financial gain or whenever it suits him. And of course, he's going to lead them through the jungle into the city of gold. And then they finally see these walls, and then that's when he says, sometimes even a blind monkey can find a banana.
That sounds like something that should be on a fortune cookie, or maybe the new fortune banana that they're going to roll out, where you peel it back and you get a fortune with every, and most of it's about potassium, I guess, right? So
yeah, there you go.
Backing up to Field of Dreams, I forgot that he was in that. Another Kevin Costner baseball movie.
Imagine that.
Now, I believe I saw Field of Dreams in the theater, and I've never bothered to look this up, but I'm pretty sure, I could be completely wrong about this, and you can just throw things at whatever you want. You've probably already got your Jack Hansen dartboard handy for the podcast listens anyway. So just, throw a couple of extra ones right there where you need to. But I'm pretty sure I hated baseball with a passion when I was young, when I was like grade school years. Just absolutely hated it. Just don't know why, but just it was one of those things. It was just I couldn't stand it. And then all of a sudden, right around age 12 or 13, I guess it was kind of junior high, early junior high, late middle school, I discovered baseball. And baseball was it was everything for a couple of years there. And that movie landed kind of right towards the end of that phase for me.
Mm-hmm.
So me, I mean, I'm the next probably best thing you're going to find to Bob Costas at that time, because although baseball is going on in the present zeitgeist that I exist within, I am more interested in what happened 40 years ago or 70 years ago. So
right.
I'm collecting baseball cards that are from the 1950s, and I'm, reading up all this stuff about baseball from the teens and 20s. So I was, for a young person, fairly learned to pretty advanced, actually, in my knowledge about the sport and its history, even in just a couple of years. So that movie landed, and I'm pretty sure that Shoeless Joe Jackson, who is portrayed by Ray Liotta in the movie, Ray Liotta, I'm pretty sure, bats right-handed in that movie. And Shoeless Joe Jackson was a southpaw. He swung from the left side of the plate.
Very keen.
And I think I was the first person ever, to see that movie, because we probably saw it on opening weekend like we did everything back then, to jump up and litter his popcorn everywhere across that red carpeting that they only make in a special place where they get that for movie theaters, and go, he's batting from the right side. Shoeless Joe is not either that, or the guy who put the film into the projector in my hometown put it in backwards. I just always seem to remember that he's batting from the wrong side. Now, maybe that's not really a thing.
Maybe that's something we'll have to look into. It seems like that is something they wouldn't have missed in production.
It could be a Mandela effect, and you would think that there would be enough baseball minds on a project like that not to make that kind of a faux pas, of a switch-hitting faux pas. But
wait a minute. He's a righty in the movie.
I know it.
Yes. Shoeless Joe Jackson. A lefty. Hitter. Yep.
And that's one of the most egregious mistakes in film history. Why would you not want to portray Shoeless Joe? Is it because he was crooked and they just decided to hit him from the other side?
Oh, I'm sure there's something deep about that. Yeah.
I knew that was.
Yeah, that is wild. Yeah, no, there's a whole article online about it. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Anyway, I forgot James Earl was in that movie, and I think maybe not every boy, but every boy in my family, besides my father, who hated sports, went through their baseball thing. Because my brother didn't catch it until later in his life, and he did this massive report for one of his college classes on baseball. And that little speech by James Earl Jones, speaking of the roots of baseball, when he's talking about it making everything good again, just a quick reminder, baseball was invented by drunk people as a reason to get even more inebriated. That's what baseball was. You can look it up. Baseball was all about one thing and one thing only, beer. Beer.
Doesn't surprise me.
Baseball has a very, to some degrees, disappointing history, I suppose you could say. But James Earl, will miss him. I often wondered what he was getting. If I called up his agent and said, hey, I just have one line for James Earl Jones. I literally just want him to say, for my cell phone ring or something, this is a peanut butter sandwich, or, something like that. That would just, one line. How much is that going to cost me?
To do Jack can't come to the phone right now. Please leave your message after the tone.
I'm sure I couldn't afford that. I was just thinking about literally 5 words or something. Just a statement.
Well, according to this article, a fee to book James Earl Jones in the starting range is like $2 million. So it probably depends on how long the job is, but I mean, he was getting paid handsomely to book just commercial voiceovers.
I wanted to know like something real, like hypothetically, of course, I'm graduating high school and I want to make like the impression of a lifetime on my fellow, alumni to be. And I call up his agent and say, I want James Earl Jones to say, like, and now receiving his diploma, Jack Hansen.
Mm-hmm.
How much is that going to cost me? And I was thinking we were probably in the market of $20,000 or so just for that. But I don't know. I may be high. I mean, he may have just been like, no, don't worry about it, Jack. Just give me $50 and share that Little Debbie sandwich with me. And I'll be like, okay, I can do that.
Yeah, so there's a website called Celebrity Talent International, and it's a way for you to find out whose agency is responsible for which actors. And it's a very interesting website. On the left-hand side, there's a range of budgets, and it'll say like what their minimum fee is, like 38 Special. Yeah,
they're actually on the list.
38 Special. 70.
Okay, well, hold on. Before you say it.
Okay.
Hold on loosely.
Yeah.
This could be a lot of money.
Hold on loosely. $75,000 to $100,000 minimum fee.
$75,000 to book 38 Special, huh?
That seems a little high.
I mean, are we talking a concert here, like 2 hours with 38 Special?
I think you'd probably have to contact their management for further details. And then if we get into the $100,000 to $150,000 range, who else is on this? Man, a lot of no-name. I wouldn't pay $100,000 for any of these people. Okay, so then now it's
how often sultans and sheikhs have said the same thing when looking for when collecting a harem for a weekend at the Holiday Inn Express.
Okay, so if you had $350,000 to drop on an artist, you could get the boys from Norway, Aha.
Oh, Morten Hackert.
So you could get Aha, you could get Boston, and you could get Billy Idol.
But see, you don't really get Boston because Fran Cosmo is dead, if I'm not mistaken, and so is one of the other fellas from Boston, the original, Tom Schultz. I mean, Schultz can only play like every so often because of that neurological disorder that he has. So are you really getting Boston?
Right. You could also get Bill O'Reilly, $350,000 to $500,000 minimum fee. Okay, so now if we step up to the $500,000 to $7, over $500,000. So at this point, we can go. Oh my gosh, this is a terrible list. I don't know how valid this is, but it is interesting that it jumped out when I was looking up the Anne Hathaway. You could book Anne Hathaway. You could get her.
What?
Well,
what is she going to do?
A bat mitzvah, maybe? I don't know. Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller, comedian actor, $500,000 for Ben Stiller. Anyway, Billy Crystal is also in that tier.
Oh man, that's a bargain if you ask me.
Yeah, Billy Crystal. Blondie, also in that tier.
Speaking of baseball, because Billy Crystal loved baseball or loves baseball.
Yeah, he does.
He had some of the funniest routines on baseball I've ever seen because it's kind of hard to make baseball funny, but he did. So.
Yeah, no, I knew that about him. He's him and Bob Costas. You brought up him just a few minutes ago. So anyway, James Earl Jones, we light a candle for you, and thank you for all the gifts you gave us throughout your career in life.
It's a Darth Vader ensconced black candle, which looks a lot like, unless it's facing forward, something from Santeria, the world of Santeria, right. But that's okay. So, and big news here for you. I forgot to mention pumpkin spice. They're making a rectal version. You take it rectally. So.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. You can experience in all ways now pumpkin spice and everything nice. Also, Moody Blues renaming their album "Every Good Boy Deserves Favor." Every Good Boy Deserves pumpkin spice.
Oh, nice.
Officially, that'll come out. So.
That's nice. I like that. You know, it is the most wonderful time of the year.
Yeah, for sure. So, can we shift gears here? I wrote something down I wanted to share because I was looking at this the other day, and I thought, you know, this is poignant, and you should probably share this because part of the design of this exercise is for me to aerate all this stuff that the universe keeps DLing me. So, you know, I figured, what the hell, we'll take a run at this.
All right, lay it on us.
Yeah, I mean, I just what it goes to. Well, I'll read it, and then we can discuss it briefly. It'll be like your Jack Hansen assignment for the week. You know, you'll have to think about this for at least a few seconds, and before you move back to James Earl Jones and Pumpkin Spice. And
Between
what was that movie he was in again? The one you like?
Alan Quartermain in The Lost City of Gold.
Alan Quartermain and The Lost City of Gold.
Which is like a low-budget version of Indiana Jones.
It almost sounds like a low-budget version of Romancing the Stone in some ways.
Yes, that too. I think Romancing the Stone and Alan Quartermain were released around the same time frame, and then they were both rip-offs of Indiana Jones.
We're going to make an amalgam and just say it's Romancing the Temple of Doom. How's that?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. All right. So here's what I wrote down. We truly evolve or elevate spiritually when we use our precious gift of free will to do something that is counter to the programming of our mind and body. Spiritual energy is infinitely more powerful than DNA or chemical reactions in the brain or any behaviors that we've involuntarily learned to model from them. And when we choose to be better than what these things would have us do by default, we grow in the greatest way possible and generate a special kind of miracle like no other. Now, as usual, it sounds heavier than it probably is, but I think it just goes to the thought that think beyond your programming. It seems like we have so many people that are reactionary. It seems like I was just talking about, I have to do a radio remote, they're called in the business. It's an on-location broadcast, and I need to do it 2 days in a row, and it's at the same store in 2 different locations, 2 different towns, and there's this guy who's this, like, I don't know how famous he is, but he's apparently renowned, we'll use that word, and he's a grill master, so he's coming to make all this food. And the guys were talking to me this morning about it that I work with, and they were talking about how lucky I was because I get to go where there's going to be all this food. And recently, of course, Jack went to the doctor pissing and moaning about the fact he's put on some weight and can't seem to take it off. So I'm eating like a bunny rabbit over here, and I don't want anything to do with barbecued baked beans and buttered chicken and anything he's pulling off this.
Yeah, because once it hits your nose, it's just like, oh, I got to have some of that.
Apparently, he's going to make all this on a big green egg. Folks, when I first heard of a big green egg, I thought it was a Dr. Seuss book. But apparently it's something that you make grilled meat on and stuff. So anyway, it even came up today thinking about how these guys were just being led around by their stomachs. They were being led around by the persistent nature of craving or desiring something that's just going to sate one of the 5 senses. It's like, oh, it's going to taste good. Oh, it's going to feel good. Oh, it's going to smell good, which isn't as common, but it's there. Oh, it's going to sound good. And what's the other one? Oh, it's going to, what? I'm missing one. Anyway, you know, those. And it's going to look good. Yeah, of course.
It reminds me of stoicism.
What's that?
It reminds me of stoicism.
Stoicism, yeah. I mean, sure. I suppose we could go there. It's trying to think. It's trying to be consciously aware of the fact that you're not just being led around by your primal instincts constantly. That's essentially what it goes to. But that's part of the miracle, like I said at the outset of that little statement about free will and why free will is so awesome, because our perception is that the animal kingdom, or those creatures that aren't or haven't arrived at a sentient nature yet, just aren't able to do that. Like your cat, if it's in heat, there's no way it can stop and go, you know, I don't really think I'd want to mount this other kitty from across the street today.
Right.
She's looking really good. Plus, I don't want to have a litter of kittens with
they're
her.
like magnets. They just keep getting closer together, yeah.
Yeah, no matter how great the desire is, human beings can always curtail that. They can always crimp that or curve that, whereas animals, so we think anyway, are unable to bend their primal instincts in a different direction. But we have that capacity. So it basically goes to, it's a long way of saying we should do that. We should look at and think about and consider the actions that we're about to take every time before we take them, especially when you're picking up cookie dough Twix there's nothing like impulse items at the supermarket, right? I mean, every time my ex-wife grabbed an impulse item or my current girlfriend grabs one, which isn't as often, it drives me crazy because impulse items are literally designed to affect that part of your brain, to draw that side of you, which is just, I have to look at this. This is sweet and tasty. I have to buy it.
Okay, so now let me run this by you, because what would it be if an impulse item is premeditated? And I say this because my wife has this fascination with getting limited edition food.
Yes, you told me that.
This week she came home with the Oreos that taste like Coca-Cola and the Coca-Cola that tastes like Oreos. So what is it when somebody premeditatively goes out seeking something that is of impulse like that? I mean, that's the only thing I can think of, is that they do those limited editions so that people are like, oh yeah, I see it, boom. But it's more like a premeditated thing on her part, because she subscribes to this newsletter or something that she gets in an email that alerts her to when there are things like that.
Well, with all deference to your spouse, I'd have to say that it's just impulsive lunacy. I mean, in some ways,
it is kind of, isn't it?
It's just, it's crazy. She's sold on the novelty of it, is what it is.
Yes.
It's a niche that it's like, oh, how clever. Who would have ever thought they'd make, and then they make it.
Right.
And then people actually buy it. And some of these things are so, first of all, let me say this too, because I have a brief little thing about limited edition foods, because I've been seeing them for years and it drives me crazy. Okay. Anything that actually belongs in your body, anything that's actually food,
organic,
all food, is limited edition, because it's going to go bad. Okay, so limited edition literally applies to things that you should be eating, because it's going to go bad in a couple of weeks or even less. Guavas, mangoes, apricots, tomatoes, avocados, bananas, you name it. It's all limited edition because it's going to go bad.
Right.
So when it comes to the things that aren't even close to being limited edition, because the shelf life of an Oreo's got to be close to that of plutonium, right?
Right.
I mean, the novelty is, who'd have ever thought that they would make Frank's Red Hot in an Oreo? So they do it, and then these corporate conjurations are so diabolical, in my opinion, today. They're such machinations of separating people from their money that they don't even release a lot of these to the general public. They actually have a lottery for them. They put them on their, like, you seen this? Like the mac and cheese that's like Jack Daniels flavored, and suddenly, half the American population apparently says, oh my God, I got to have that. Well, the problem is that Kraft and the folks at the fine distilleries in Lynchburg, Tennessee, say, we're not just going to give this away like candy. You don't just go buy this. We're only making 1,000 boxes, and you have to go online and enter to pay for it. So you don't even win it if you enter. You enter for the right to buy it. Now we're Costco mentality. Now we're pay us to shop here and spend more money. No, not going to happen. That's where I draw the line. Just the same with your Jack Daniels mac and cheese, or Jack and Cheese, as I'm probably sure they'd love to call it.
Right.
Not going to enter a lottery drawing just to be selected to overpay for a box of novelty mac and cheese. That isn't going to happen. So what the allure is there, I don't know, because the big problem I have with it is that if it were a mom and pop homemade style whiskey mac and cheese, that's one thing. A couple that brews this stuff up, whips it up in their kitchen somewhere in Kentucky, and then says, oh, we got Jack and Cheese for you now. We come out with this. It's a hell of a recipe, and my grandpappy used to add it to it when we go out camping with him, and God rest his soul, he was killed by, run over by several reindeer. The song Run Over by a Reindeer, that's him. Actually, they wrote that after him.
Get her done.
That's one thing. But it's a corporate conglomeration. It's a corporate amalgamation of, I mean, what, are you crazy? Nabisco, who of course is in league with Big Tobacco, coming together with our friends at Coca-Cola, who have been trying to dominate the world and doing a pretty successful job of it for now over 100 years, to make a Coca-Cola flavored Oreo cookie. Yeah, I mean, no thanks here. I've had enough of both in my life.
It is an interesting cross-promotion, and I think we've talked about this before. I have a problem with injecting alcohol into something that really shouldn't be alcohol. Or people do it for flavor in some cases, but like, you know, injecting bourbon into a cheesecake is not my idea of cheesecake, and it's not my idea of bourbon. So why do it? And I always tell my wife the same thing, is it's like, well, this isn't Coke, and it's not an Oreo, and it doesn't really taste very good, because she's already over it, and she's moved on to something else.
She's already over it. And they love that because they've got plenty more lined up. I told you about the pie, the ex that I have that you know, and I helped her out with her pie recipe because she entered. Did I tell you that?
Yes.
Okay. So,
yes, you did.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay. So she came in last place the first time they had this pie contest at this like farmer's market thing. And then I start dating her and we're talking about it. She's like, yeah, I'm going to enter this pie thing again. And I said, you know what you need to do? Because she was making it one day in the kitchen, and I was taking little spoonfuls. And here, taste this. Oh, does it taste right? I was like, yeah. I said, you know what? You're such a drinker. Why you haven't added bourbon to this, I don't know. Add some whiskey. And she was like, you know what? That's not bad. That's a hell of an idea. And she won first place. And I take absolutely all the credit for it because it was my fucking idea. And it was like, of course, she added whiskey to the pie, and of course everybody wanted it. I have no idea if it actually caramelized better or added to the flavor or what the deal was. I'm sure it did. It was probably just a one-off. But I think you can add alcohol to certain recipes for flavor. I put, I saute in wine and, cooking wine. It's fine.
And I think that makes sense. I think that makes sense. But to just inject like bourbon into barbecue sauce just so you can say there's bourbon in barbecue sauce.
That's why they do it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And so then did she have to disclose the name? Like, did she have to disclose in the contest the secret ingredient? Like, she called it bourbon or whiskey, apple pie? She didn't. Okay. Because that could also be a highlight if she was able to say that, the name of this is.
Well, here's the thing. Pie filling is a dime a dozen. Quite honestly. Mm-hmm. I mean, unless we're talking about, and God, by the way, I am an enormous Fruit Pie the Magician fan. He is my favorite, like one of my favorite advertising icons of all time. And remember, advertising icons get a break from Jack Hansen because it's not their fault. They were pulled from the ether to like literally be enslaved to do this marketing gig. All Fruit Pie the Magician wants to be is an anthropocentric or an anthropomorphic fruit pie that wears a magician's robe and has a top hat and go around and perform tricks and make people happy. He's so sweet. I love Fruit Pie the Magician, but he's been forced into this enslaved
kind of like the Keebler elves.
Here, sell our fruit pies. And so, yeah. But even that fruit pie filling is, for as, whipped up as it is in a corporate kitchen, for as processed as it is, it's still, pie filling is kind of a dime a dozen. Her crust was by far the best crust of the other crusts the first year. And that's what I told her. I said, listen, you've got the crust down. And as far as for my money, the crust is where it's at because it's hard to make a good crust. My mom, it was like 3 or 4 simple ingredients. She made the best crust ever. Don't ask me how she did it. It just had that mom's touch.
It's the same with pizza. So I said, it has to have a good crust.
Yeah. It's like, so your crust is banging, but the filling is just where you're falling short. So let's just do something to the filling to make, because that's what people sadly are tasting because people are stupid. They don't realize that they're going to say, oh, the crust doesn't matter. It doesn't taste like anything. It's the filling. So just give them the filling they want and then you'll win. And that's exactly what happened. But I think like things like Birrios is where we go from the sublime to the ridiculous. These guys that will pour a warm beer over Cheerios when they go camping. That used to be a thing years ago. I don't know if it's still a thing now. you ask anybody, that's either going to be a waste of good Cheerios or a waste of a good beer, because nobody wants to eat Cheerios with beer, doused in beer and sogified by warm, Colt 45 or Keystone Ice, whatever's been sitting there by the fire overnight. I mean, just nobody wants to do that. So I don't know. Food is just out of control. And again, it goes back to, my little thing there that I was talking about, and just trying to, because these guys were just all about, oh, Jack, you're so lucky to go be around all this food, and they're going to feed you, and there's all this food, and we mentioned the food, there's going to be food, they're going to put it in your mouth, and you can chew it and eat it. And I'm just like, guys, I'm probably not going to really eat any of the food at all.
You're crazy.
I don't want to eat all this food. I'm trying to lose weight. I feel bad when I eat fatty foods.
And what was their reaction? Well, I didn't say that because I don't want to be ostracized any more than I am for saying some of the things that I do. I just kept it to myself. But I'm just thinking to myself, and both of these men are very portly, Of course.
They would look right at home in a barrel going over Niagara Falls.
Well, let's reenact
perfectly. So
let's reenact this moment. This is what it would have sounded like. So, Jack, I got to tell you, you're going to have the best time this weekend. You get to go to that event and you get to eat all that food and all those smoked meats. What do you think?
I think I'm in it for the money more than anything. I hate to sound mercenary, but I think I'm doing it because somebody's out of town and I got called upon to do it instead. So, I mean, the food, I'm going to bring a Cliff Bar, I think, or something, and just maybe they can grill that up. I don't know. But
you know what your problem is, Hanson? You don't eat enough meat. Look at me, a big guy, strong. I am the picture of health. I eat 5, 6, 7 pounds a day. That's what it would have sounded like.
Yeah. Well, one of the guys was saying that he has 5 grills, and they're trying to sell, he and his wife, all but one of them, because apparently his wife, when their kids were at home, they ate a lot of meat. But now that his kids have moved away from home, his wife doesn't eat meat. And so it's just him, and he doesn't feel like grilling for himself. And it's just it seems to me like that's something that should be taken into a psychotherapist. It should be analyzed, under a microscope.
I don't grill alone.
So, yeah, I can't. That's kind of I wanted to ask him straight away, do you masturbate when she's in the house, or is that not a thing either?
That's great.
I mean, what is the problem with grilling yourself up a burger just for you and she can have a salad? Why is that a problem? But for this guy, it's a problem. So, okay.
Well, you'll have to report back.
So anyway, Jack will be around. Plenty of grilled meat this weekend. And I really don't. I'm insouciant to the whole thing. I don't care. It's just the event will go on, and I will make my money for being there. And I hate to be mercenary about it, but I kind of am when it comes to my job, because it's that's the only reason why I really do it. I mean, do I have a decent job? Yes. I don't want to lose it, but.
So what you're referring to is very similar to Stoicism, which actually this afternoon I was just looking it up because I was curious. I know there's this big movement now about trying to be more stoic in behavior, and really, just for kind of a Reader's Digest condensed version, it's, trying to do everything in balance and focusing on reframing the mind, not to react to things that can't be controlled. It's, kind of like a development, just kind of trying to take more consideration into how you are reacting to yourself, how you're reacting to other people. And that's kind of what popped into my mind when I first heard you read that.
Well, I think in addition to maybe reacting or contemplating how you're reacting to things, it's also contemplating before you react to things, because I think the world is so reactionary. It's just we live in a knee-jerk world. And it's that I'm not sure which end of the candle is responsible for eventually blowing the stick of dynamite that's at the other end. I'm not sure. But one of those two things seems to lead to the other eventually, which is this knee-jerk society where everything becomes impulsive. I don't think before I say anything. I don't think before I buy something in line, even though I don't need it and it's terrible for my body. I don't think before, and then it boils kind of down to I'm not thinking. I'm literally being led around by something that isn't this incredible, not only chemical brain that we have, because the chemicals in your brain are going to tell you it's time to do this, it's time to do that, don't do this, don't do that. And I'm only thinking that they need to be right about half the time. Yes, they probably have your biological interest in heart most of the time, but we can still think beyond those things. And so the idea is to tap into that higher self, that higher mind, the heart space maybe is what I'm aiming for here. And really, rather than say think, you contemplate.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only word I can really come up with, because ruminate is too strong, and I don't think you want to be caught overdoing it. But, you really do consider, I suppose, in a manner that is greater than those impulses, what it is that you are about to do and what their ramifications will be, both of the moment and both of the future in the next 10 minutes. And to me, this is what separates someone from being able to take a limited edition Oreo and dunk one of them in their favorite adult beverage, or just milk if they're a purist like me.
Mm-hmm.
And if they've gone through that process, and you don't have to sit and meditate on it, I don't think, for 15 or 20 minutes, you can do this in a very brief amount of time. In a fleeting instant, you can kind of do this without being impulsive and say, you know what, I'm going to go for the Oreo, but I'm going to go for one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think then one Oreo perhaps then embodies the enjoyment of the entire fucking package without having to devour it and eventually pay the consequences for it. You see what I'm saying? So it's the consideration of what I'm about to enjoy that truly leads to the enjoyment itself. So you're outthinking your taste buds in some ways and saying, I know this is going to be good, but I just made it 10 times better, 1,000 times better, infinitely better, because I contemplated how good it really is. Not just from this standpoint, but from the standpoint of the fact that because I've contemplated what I'm doing and I've accepted that the Oreo is going to go into my body, I'm going to love it. Now, what I think you're going to find is if you truly live your life that way, you're going to spit that fucker out real quick because you don't want anything to do. Because you're going to taste what it really is made of. And what it's made of is no sugar or spice or anything nice. It's made of chemicals. It's made of something that isn't. But to me, that's okay, because that's the first step on discovering that something else then that maybe you've even eschewed your whole life will taste amazing to you. I'm watching my girlfriend go through this right now as she's getting more and more exposed to things that she's just traditionally decided that she doesn't like. Didn't like mushrooms when I first met her. And I said, when was the last time you had a mushroom?
Now, we're not talking about the psychedelic mushrooms that you get in the North County.
No.
Okay.
Just mushrooms that you eat.
Because we did talk about barter fare.
Well, because she's 24 at the time, I think. And I just said, when was the last time you had a mushroom? And she said, well, I don't know, when I was a kid. And I'm like, what's that? You're still kind of a kid in some ways. She was 10, 11. So you haven't tried a mushroom in a dozen years.
Yeah.
No, won't try it. Don't want it. Okay.
Don't want it.
So we go to a ramen place in Oregon, and we're sitting there, and there's something on the menu she can't pronounce that's in the ramen, but she orders it anyway, and I happen to know it's fucking mushrooms. And here comes the thing. And they're not obvious mushrooms either. They're those weird Asian mushrooms.
Kind of like the shiitake.
Well, they weren't shiitakes. They were actually like weird wood mushrooms, and they look like, they could be something that comes out of a stool sample, quite frankly. Like, they're gross looking, but they're very tasty. So she kind of picked through them and was like, what's this? And I said, eat it. It's good. And she's like, what is it? I said, I don't know, but it's good. Ate every last one of them and heralded the angel's return of the unknown mushroom at the same time, because after the both, I said, you know what those were? I said, those were mushrooms. She said, you let me eat mushrooms? So, of course, first Jack got bashed for sort of quasi-lying, but I said, look, but you liked them. That was the point.
Yeah,
and you said
true.
You didn't like mushrooms, and yet you do. So I know it's kind of an offbeat story, because like, well, what does that have to do with this? Well, it's at least half related, because the contemplation was there of what am I about to eat? oh, I decided a long time ago I don't like that. So if someone just brands it as that, I'm out. And yet if no one bothers to brand it as a mushroom and I eat it and say this is good because it's undetermined,
right?
What kind of sense does that make? So you're missing out on something just because
100%.
Of somebody putting 10 letters in order that you don't happen to agree with, or is
100%.
It's an eight-letter word.
I think we could take this full circle. Really, I do, because I think that this happens in our political system in this country. And I think that people get themselves so focused on one thing, and they immediately just stamp their book for the rest of their life. Nope, this is what I believe. But do you, though?
Well,
it's
easier.
Yeah, it is. It's easier. And, I do think that sometimes our minds can be very destructive. They can be destructive to, just the outlook we have on life, to the friends that we make in life. I have family members who just are so set in their ways that it's just like they're missing out on what could otherwise be really, I think, a better life, but that's their choice, right?
Well, it kind of, we don't want to trickle down into the kindergarten territory of try new things, you'll like it, but we kind of do, because like you said, set in their ways, obstinate, stuck. We all know people like that. We ourselves are like that in a lot of ways. And changing perspectives is always important. But I think before we even begin to move ourselves around the dial and say, oh, wow, I never looked at this from this perspective, it looks totally different from up here, we just contemplate the things that we're doing now. If we just take a moment to reflect on, okay, another fucking Oreo is about to go down the chute. Am I really tasting it? Am I really enjoying it? Am I really, or am I just doing it? It's kind of like sex is another great example. I mean, I can't honestly say that I've ever had tantric sex because I don't really know what that is. Still trying to figure it out. But let's face it, sex is one of those things that it's like canned soup. You get in the habit when you're in a monogamous relationship or you have access to it with a partner constantly, whether it's monogamous or not, that you just crack open the can, dump it out, throw it in the microwave. 2 minutes later, it's ready. You're done, and off we go. Lunch.
Oh,
is
you're
served.
such a romantic,
like
Jack. You're such a romantic.
Well, I think I'm just trying to use common examples of things that people desire,
right? And
then saying, but are you really getting the most bang? Quite literally, I guess, metaphorically, at least in the case of sex. Are you just going around having sex?
You're just going through the motions.
Decided that's. But it seems to me like you're going through the motions, Casanova. I mean, you want to go and have all this sex, but you're not really getting anything out of it. Now, maybe there are people that absolutely do, and I salute them for that. But, they're the ones, I think, that may be practicing this and maybe doing it, involuntarily, subconsciously. They might just be default practitioners of, I am truly going to enjoy this. As one Simpsons character who was short-lived on one episode said, he was looking forward to a date with Marge, and, Marge was still married, and Marge decided not to go on this date. He was a bowler who was also a real romantic, but he was talking about looking forward to having this date with Marge because he knew that he was going to score. This was it. He'd already, zhuzhed her up enough. He'd already wooed her to the point at the bowling alley and I can't remember exactly what he says, but he says something like, better than the deed, better than the moment of anticipation. And he's talking about how anticipating doing something is of greater enjoyment than actually doing something. And to me, that gets into different territory a little bit because now we're talking about the non-existence of time. We're talking about how all time is a way to measure that which is potentially going to happen and then eventually does happen. It's just a way to mark things that occur. It's a way to mark change. But if you're getting more enjoyment out of thinking of eating the Oreo than you actually are, what's the point in eating the Oreo? Especially when it's laden with chemicals and going to kill you and put fat on your body, which isn't good for you and going to make you feel bad. And remember, that's your constant here, your physical vessel. You have to live inside of that. And would you rather have that feeling good all the time, or do you want some more Oreos? And so it's something to think about. It's something, again, not to think about with your mind, but to put in your heart space and martini shake a little bit. Because why do we do the things that we do? Why is it that we want certain things? Are they all in our universal best interest, or are they just short-sighted? I want this because I want it. Or worse than anything, as you know about me, I want this because the world tells me I should. I want this because all my buddies do it.
That's the worst.
Oh my God. And yet another week has gone by where Taylor Swift has taken home, more fucking gold at some stupid music thing than,
I will say though,
she isn't real.
Okay, but I will say my sister brought it to my attention that there is a underground movement that has finally come to the surface, and it's something I've been saying since last October, which is Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift have a fake relationship, and they only did it for financial gain, which I've been saying all along.
Yeah, but Taylor Swift isn't even a real person. There may have been a real Taylor Swift at one time.
The corporation known as Taylor Swift has been dating
that is.
The corporation known as Travis Kelce for financial gain. I've been saying it since October. There's no way that anybody goes into that kind of a deal without thinking of the upside. And I guarantee there's an upside. You don't make that much money.
What a marriage made in heaven. The most contrived musician of popular fame in our history, manufactured in a laboratory, some kind of a fifth dimension reptilian monster underneath this pop singer's outfit in collusion with the NFL, with the biggest pro sports fakery that exists besides wrestling, which everybody should fucking know is fake, but for some reason the guy you go sit next to at the thing when you go to the you know my soapbox on professional wrestling, just admit it's fake and we're okay, but they are just, oh no, it's real, man. Oh my God. No, it's not.
Oh,
it's
man,
not
bless
real.
Them too.
Yeah, so I can't imagine a better marriage made in heaven than the NFL and Taylor Swift. She's going to be out there playing pretty soon. Let her kick for the Chiefs this season. And it's not because it couldn't happen because the universe isn't magical. It's because of the money. It's because there's too much money. And wherever you see that much money, you're going to get bullshit. A lot of it, too. But one of the things that I've noticed, because, as you know, my girlfriend is part Native American. Native Americans, we talk about this all the time. Native American, and I'll just say stuff for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But in pop culture, Native Americans are very hot right now. Very on fire right now. Everybody's reacting to things that are Native American. Suddenly, everybody wants to watch shows that are about Native Americans, that portray Native Americans. Native Americans are the shit at the moment in a marketing way. And so, I get that there's a cultural aspect to this, but I just wish that it wasn't so Hollywoodized. She's saying a lot of people are really jazzed because Native Americans are finally getting their turn. Their turn at what? Being put through the grist of an old white money machine that's been in Southern California and dazzled up, for 100+ years. That's no way to arrive in modern society in the West, if you ask me. So
send them through the line, folks. Who's next?
But the Chiefs. So suddenly it's the Chiefs. And I'm thinking to myself, same deal, Jack, same deal all over again. It's like, what is popular? What is the popular flavor we are going to run on people right now so they will watch TV, listen to the radio, listen to podcasts, glued to the internet, glued to social media, buy, all the while advertising, flashing in between all of it. Buy this, buy that, do this, do that, don't do that, don't think this way, think our way, think this way. It's all money. And so the Chiefs are the big game in town all of a sudden. Big surprise. Huge surprise. Huh?
And Taylor Swift. So you put that into
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, you put that into the equation, and nobody makes that much money on accident.
And no one else that I would rather have portray Pocahontas in my middle school play than Taylor Swift, by the way.
There you go.
That just has to be said, too.
Haters gonna hate. Oh, man. I sing it loud, sing it proud. All this
Is this
talk.
New Kids on the Block?
No, it's a man by the name of Levert. The song is Casanova, off of his greatest hits. I didn't even know who this was, and he has a greatest hits album, but, all that talk about Casanova and Taylor Swift, and I figured this was just a fitting song to leave us.
Please tell me he's going to do an album of duets with Shirley MacLaine, so it can be called Levert and Shirley.
Oh, coming to a casino near you. Levert and Shirley. Jack Hansen, you take care of yourself.
Adieu, my friends, and rest in peace, James Earl.
Just like you in my life, so let me love you.
Well, it looks like Jack and Michael have finished up their latest chat about all things existence. But if anything they said got your own existence brewing, be sure and catch their other talks at existencebrewing.com and drop them an email to share your thoughts using contact@existencebrewing.com.
Existence Brewing.